That was a repeat interview talking about diabetes causes and prevention by pharmacist Elijah Wanchoko. I hope you have heard about the causes and how to prevent diabetes. It is a killer disease. Please do well to go for regular checkup and know your body status. Right now, we're going to go to our next spot, which is Papers Today. And on Papers Today, we'll begin with the first paper, which is the Nation newspaper. The screaming story on the Nation newspaper says security blanket on Osun to enable violence-free election. Security blankets on Osun to enable violence-free election. The election is fast approaching, so we need a violence-free election. Do not be used as a thug to disrupt the election. The writer says Akpabio, APC governors converge on Osogbo for final rally. Accord, ADC, AAC in last-minute push for votes. Okay, whatever will be, will be. The top story says EFCC recovers 115 billion, 115 billion naira, $67 million oil levies for NDDC. That's a huge amount of money recovered by the EFCC. You can grab a copy of The Nation to peruse further. Assembly plans to produce 4,000 tractor units annually. We lost 2 billion naira to unions. Disruption on flights, says Air Peace. Nigeria exceeds OPEC quota in 3 consecutive months. Details on page 8. The bottom strip says Lagos banks on food hubs to feed 25 million. Federal government equips 239,726 youths with skills. Details on page 26. And as it's on the Nation newspaper. The next paper for review is the Nigerian Tribune. On Osun politics, soldiers, police, NSCDC, EFCC flood states. The writer says IGP sends DIG Mohammed to coordinate operations. INEC expresses readiness. 15 parties to participate after inclusion of SDP. Police quiz Fadanhusi over killing comments. And finally, those inciting violence would end up in prison at the Hague, says Hashim. So please do not incite violence during elections. Get the details on pages 3 and 15. How CBN frameworks reshaping financial system in Nigeria and Africa. And this story is credited to Cardoso, the CBN governor. Details on page 6. Apex Bank eases rules, opens money market to retail investors. And that's the rider. Picketing. Air Peace loses over 2 billion naira, says union's action disregard extant laws. FHC judgments. Details on page 6. On page 16, develop democratic systems reflecting history, culture. JEG advises African nations. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan advises African nations. Page 22, why influx of arms at seaport is raising eyebrow. Troops rescue another 9 abducted commuters in Kogi, and that's on 25. And on health, daily multivitamins may help reduce hypertension risk in older adults. And this according to study. Details on page 25. Suspected kidnapper apprehended, cashing out ransom at Kwara POS terminal. Details on page 26. And the right after that story says security operatives rescue 13 kidnapped victims, arrest 6 suspected drug peddlers. We'll move from the Nigerian Tribune now to the Daily Trust. The screaming story on the Daily Trust. Tension heightens for the 8 hours to Osun election. And we have kidnappers beat me for reducing ransom. And this according to a Kogi abductee. 18 people die in Nigeria road crash. Our player, Chinedu Ozo, is dead. And this is a player with the Katsina United. They lost a very good player, Chinedu Ozo. We pray that may his soul rest in peace. Police arrest suspected kidnapper trying to withdraw ransom in Kwara POS. Phantom Council, Reps panel keeps MUM 7 days after last sitting. Nigeria meets OPEC quota on oil production. And let's move to Sokoto. Bandits kill father, nephew, abduct daughter, and daughter-in-law. This is a very sad story. Killing father and nephew, abduct daughter, and daughter-in-law in Sokoto. We'll move over to the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria fails physical transparency test for second year. And this is according to the U.S. report. Nigeria fails physical transparency test for second year. Rider says budget figures don't add up. Audit office not independent. Okay. All right, let's go to CBN reverses OMO restriction, opens market to local investors. Details on page 20. Rate of surrenders by terrorists rise 213% in 1 week. And this is according to the military. Rate of surrenders by terrorists rise 213% in 1 week. No regrets supporting Muslim tickets. And this is according to Jingi. Details on page 9. U.S. Nigeria hold fresh security talks in Washington. Inciting comments. Police grill Fada Hunsi for 2 hours. Senator raises concern over alleged killing of 12 persons in Ilesha. Charge him to court. Adeleke's camp tells police. All right. EFCC recovers over 115 billion debt for NDDC. Clears 19 oil companies. Details on page 12. New army battalion takes off in Kwara. Foreign aid bill sparks fury as rights group fear crackdown on civil society. Details on page 31. That's it on the Vanguard. We're moving over now to the Guardian newspaper. Donor fatigue. Economy take toll on blood donations in health facilities. Details on page 6. You want to get further insights on that story? Grab a copy of the Guardian. On 2027 election, ADC reveals opposition coalition's plan to challenge Tinubu. Details on page 3. Rights groups, CSOs demand withdrawal of foreign aid bill. Kebbi to support families of 10 slain police. Kebbi to support families of 10 slain police officers as more terrorists surrender. Details on page 29. Cross River, Kogi introduced new campaign advert tariffs. And that's on the 2027 election. Osun polls, fear of violence mounts as parties, groups trade allegations. Tinubu approves procurement of 35 linear accelerators for cancer treatment. Details on page 7. Picketing. AirPeace says unions will pay third-party compensation. Details on page 4. Nigeria, U.S. hold fresh security talks amid concerns on physical transparency. All right, that's it on the Guardian newspaper. We'll move over to the Daily Sun. Osun Guba election. Accord. APC trade blame over violence and deaths. Rider says we've lost 40, says APC. They've killed 29 of our members, says Accord Party. IGP deploys DIG Ishaku Mohammed to coordinate security operations. Don't militarize state, Article 1's INEC. 5 crucial factors that will decide poll. Grab a copy and get the 5 crucial factors. Anxiety in Akwa Ibom, Sokoto, 10 other states over flood alert. Details on page 27. CBN pumps 5.21 trillion naira into banks as government seeks to borrow 700 billion naira via T-bills. Strike. Air Peace accuses unions of flouting labor laws. Abuja FG houses. Wike warns fraudsters as committee secretariat shuts down. OT backs sitting of National Park in Abia as state rolls out high-risk pregnancy tracker. Islamic cleric defends Muslim ticket remarks, insists he will not apologize. And as it on the Daily Sun, the Daily Independent is next. Subverting Osun voters could prove counterproductive. The writer says CSOs, politicians demand fair play in Saturday's poll. Accord petitions EU over pre-poll violence, intimidation. Claims at least 29 people have lost their lives. Osun police drill Fadahunsi over alleged incitement. And that's it on the politics in Osun. Revenue squeeze threatens Nigerians' fiscal stability. Adeleke declares tomorrow work-free day for workers. That's for Osun State. Also on Osun polls, NHRC asks Senate to suspend Fadahunsi over inciting comments. NDPC probes Unilag, Lotus Bank, Hakabela over data breaches. Nigeria surpasses OPEC quota for third straight month. States yet to spend 267 billion naira released for basic schools. And that's according to UBEC. That's it on the Daily Independent. We'll move over to the New Telegraph. Osun Guba. INEC produces ballot papers to include SDP candidates. 67 million unemployed. 257 million outside work, school. And this according to ILO reports. And that's on the youth jobs crisis. Aviation strike. TUC warns of fresh action if issues persist. OPEC. Nigeria's oil production falls by 50,000 BPD to 1.505 million. CBN lifts FX, government securities restrictions on discount window access. WHO, Ebola outbreak in Congo on track to surpass deadliest one in history. Death toll passes 2,000. And this is on page 4. EFCC recovers 115 billion naira NDDC levies from oil firms, declares 19. Fubara dismisses alleged loggerheads with Rivers Assembly, says 2026 budget going through legislative process. Details on page 2. And lastly, Abacha didn't die on a woman. Okay. This according to Dan Etete, ex-petroleum minister, says, all right, you can grab a copy to peruse further. on that story and other stories on New Telegraph. And let's look at the Punch. On the Punch paper, we have State Police. Presidency closes public submissions today. Right after that story says, Tinubu gets final draft September 3rd after presidential working group's appraisal. National Assembly to receive State Police Bill after President's review. State Police law will guard against governor's abuse, says Presidency. On 2027 election, Atiku, Obi, more options ahead of single candidates summit. Economists back US, fault Nigerians' fiscal transparency. Details on page 2. Osun poll, INEC adds SDP to ballot, distributes sensitive materials. FG approves tax waivers for 4,000 electric vehicles. Details on page 19. 168 solar street lights stolen on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway Long Bridge. That's a very sad one. Army moves to begin operations at 4 new divisions. Now we'll move to the last paper, which is This Day. The screaming story says are delicate to workers. Mobilize everyone to vote this Saturday and defend your vote. Trump claims US has total control of Hormuz as ship traffic falls to 1-week low. In new policy tweak, CBN removes discount window restrictions on FX, government securities transactions. All right, that's it on this day, and that's it on all the papers we have today. So you can grab a copy and peruse further. You can also do an e-copy if you cannot get a hard copy. That's it. I like that word, Adeleke told workers. Defend your votes. Come out and defend your votes. So as we await the Saturday election that will be happening in Osun State, we wish them a peaceful and violence-free election. Okay, so that's it on Morning Right Thursday's edition. I hope it was worth your time. And before I let you go, I'm going to talk about open defecation. It remains a serious sanitation challenge with health